It has been 1 year since the APNU+AFC government came into office. We're here with the Honourable Raphael Trotman, Minister of Natural Resources and the Environment, to discuss his challenges, successes and plans for the remainder of his term. Welcome, Minister.
Thank you.
Alright, let's start off a little personal. You are a lawyer by profession. How do you find the transition into a field that is economically viable for this country right now?
Natural resources.
Natural resources.
Well, indeed, my background would be law and then, of course, more governance issues. And it may be recalled that up until the 31st of December of last year, 2015, I was Minister of Governance with some responsibility for the national patrimony, which includes the resources. So it would be correct for me to say that it has been quite an interesting journey to move from governance issues into management of the natural resources. But I'd like to think that we are improving, our knowledge is growing, and we are learning as fast as we can. So it's interesting, it's a new challenge, but I believe that all that I've done before prepares me to rise to the occasion and rise to the challenge.
Over the year, what has been your major challenge?
Well, I think just that learning the acronyms and learning the different things that are happening. Ghana is a vast country, as we know, and there's much happening. There's the Ghana Geology and Mines Commission that comes under this ministry. There is the Environmental Protection Agency. Wildlife Management comes under this ministry. Forestry, which has been a serious issue. Bauxite mining, gold mining, and just as importantly, perhaps most importantly, petroleum exploration. So those are where we are, and it's been a challenge. But I think if I can identify one, it has been my frustration, if I can put it that way, is in mining. I think to get a good balance between respecting and managing our environment in a sustainable way, whilst at the same time being able to extract the resources, particularly gold, diamonds and bauxite. So we've had some challenges because we've had a few mining deaths. Unfortunately, since we took office, there have been 3 deaths, but just at about the day before the president was sworn in, there was a death last year, an accident which led to 11 persons dying. We've had 2 quite recently. All are being investigated, and those pain us the most because we really would like to bring that to zero.
Right, since you've touched on those deaths, what measures are being taken by the ministry to ensure that there is I don't want to say stricter, but there's a more enforced safety regulation within the mining community?
The GGMC has been tasked with ensuring that our laws and regulations are enforced. I do believe that we've had too much of a lax situation for too many years, and so stakeholders and persons who have no knowledge have jumped into the field and have gotten into mining and without knowing sometimes just the rudimentary aspects of it, and have not always done well. So we'd like to go back to the laws. Of course, not all of them are applicable now. There are going to be some complaints, but we believe that a rules-based system is what is best. So it's going to help us to curb and hopefully reduce to zero the incidence of accidents.
All right, under the GGMC, which overlooks mining, are there any reviews currently being done? Because you mentioned you might have to look at some of the laws.
Well, we've had, yes, I can mention we've had a report submitted by Dr. Grantley Walron, who did an investigation into the 2015 accident, and those produced very good recommendations. We've had recommendations from the Ghana Women Miners Organization, the Ghana Gold and Diamond Mines Association, and most recently Major General retired Joe Singh produced another report. So all of those are right now with the Ghana Geology and Mines Commission, and they are tasked with going through them, seeing what can be implemented. Some of them will take time, some could be immediately implemented, and that review is ongoing. Also, the Ghana Gold and Diamond Miners Association recently commissioned a study of mining. And we are looking to collaborate with them to use that study to reform the industry and the sector.
Your junior minister um, had talked about mapping the, the mining areas to better streamline the sector. Do you want to comment on how that?
Well, we do have 6 mining districts. Right now, we believe that we want to maintain those. We don't want to open any new mining districts in Guyana. And those are being maintained. I think what we'd like to use now is more technology, GPS mapping, geospatial information, how it can be used and shared, so that if a miner has these coordinates, he or she is to mine that and that alone, and we know exactly what is happening in any given area. So that work is ongoing, and on that we are going to collaborate with the Ministry of Public Telecommunication.
Speaking of technology, the interior area is vast. The challenges, if any, in monitoring to ensure, because you had mentioned previously that the days of free-for-all is over.
Oh, right.
So how is monitoring of the area?
Well, the monitoring comes in various ways. We rely on persons traversing through the interior to give us information. Miners give us quite a bit about happenings on the borders and so forth. The Amerindian communities, the hinterland communities are also very vigilant, and we applaud them for that. They let us know if rivers are being affected or there is some illegal activity. Aircrafts going into the interior, either on tourist flights or to take passengers or to take equipment, they also report from time to time that something may be happening. And I'll give you an example of recent discoveries of mining near Kaichor. Kaichor is a protected area. It is the premier protected area in Guyana. It is, in a sense, a gift to the world. And so once we heard, we verified that there was mining too close to the boundaries of Kaichor, and that situation was dealt with, in a sense, very condignly, because the message must go out that we will not condone mining, illegal or in any other form, in our protected areas. And the other method we're using is satellite. We do have satellite monitoring for the forests. And so by collaborating now with the Ministry of Public Telecommunication, the Guyana Forestry Commission and GGMC, and I should add Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission, we can really get a sense in real time of anything that's happening in Guyana, anything that's major that's disturbing the environment.
Let's talk about the mining of other rare minerals. How do you maximize mining, but at the same time ensure that the environment, damage to the environment is minimized?
Well, again, that is always going to be a challenge, because we believe that mining is a part of who we are as Guyanese, and it's not going to go away. But at the same time, it has to be done in an environmentally sustainable manner. So I'm about to take the cabinet a paper on land reclamation. There is a project which we'd like to expand. We want to make sure that when miners remove from the land that the overburden is restored, that we replant the forest. Some of it is being done, but not enough of it is being done. We want to ensure that we maintain our forest canopy. And I'm happy to say that miners are willing and keen on supporting us. I think it's now for the regulatory agencies, Guyana Forestry Commission, Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission, and the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission to ensure that we do our part.
Overall, how is the sector doing, the mining sector?
Mining is doing, I would say, relatively well. I don't want to say that we are doing extremely well. Commodity prices worldwide are a bit depressed. Growth in China and India, growth has slowed down, and so we feel the repercussions of that in Guyana. So demand for timber is down, demand for gold, demand for diamonds, all of those are down, and bauxite. But at the same time, Guyanese miners, we're doing very well, and our target this year, as announced in the budget speech by the Minister of Finance, is 550,000 ounces, which would be a very high intake in terms of declarations and production and declarations of gold. I'm telling you about now. We intend to surpass that. I don't want to reveal what is our target internally, but we're working towards a target that goes past 550,000 ounces. So I would say we're doing relatively well in the circumstances.
Right, without revealing what your figures
We
are.
want to cross the 600,000 mark.
You want to cross the
Yes.
600,000. Are you within
Yeah,
realization of that?
we look like we're going
You
to
look
get
like
there.
you're
But
going to.
we want to make sure that we don't become complacent or just overconfident that it's going to happen. We've got to make sure that things remain in place.
Right, turning your attention to bauxite, you mentioned that demand for that as well is down. How is the local bauxite?
Well, there are two companies mining for bauxite now. One is Bauxite, which is a Chinese company. The other is Rusa, which is a Russian-based entity. Both are actually doing, again, relatively well. And I think one supplies markets in China, the other Russia. So we're not trying to sell on the international market, so to speak. So both have guaranteed places that are ready to receive their production. So we've seen increases in both production and profits for both companies.
And for bauxite in general, are we likely to see a resuscitation in that sector?
Well, I can tell you that the bauxite industry actually this year, apart from the 50th anniversary of being independent, Guyana will celebrate in October 100 years of bauxite mining. So we are in our planning stages. There is a committee formed. The committee met with the ministry last week. The ministry is now formally a part of that committee. And there are going to be a number of activities in Linden, Kokwani, Ituni. People are coming in from abroad, workshops and discussions, and we're going to commission a study on bauxite and its resuscitation and long-term viability later this year, yes.
So there is plans to revive.
There are plans.
Great. Now turning to forestry, you had mentioned that all productive forests have been distributed. What is being done to handle protecting the country's patronage and ensuring that we still sustain the majority of our forests and ensure?
Well, I did make a statement in Parliament, which was based on documentation provided to me by the Ghana Forestry Commission. I was shocked by what I saw. Ghana has forests that are set aside for harvesting of logs, which we call productive forests. It has reserves like Iwokurama and a few others, and there's some areas that are not to be touched for different reasons. There's an area called the Fourth Parallel that's going near to Suriname. What we found is that indeed too much of our forests had been allocated, and I did say in Parliament during the budget presentation that no self-respecting government could or should allow a situation like that to prevail. And so we've started the process. I've mandated the Ghana Forestry Commission to slowly but surely start to pull back some of our forests. We've already recovered, I would say, close to 300,000 hectares quite recently. Another few thousand, 100,000 hectares are likely to be back into the state's control before the end of the year.
Does this mean that you would have had to revoke some concessions?
What we didn't necessarily revoke. What we did is not renew. When applications for renewals came up, they were not renewed because concessions have a lifespan, and also fees have to be paid, and if the fees are not paid, you're not going to be given an opportunity to just continue being in control of something when you're not paying. So we don't want to go the route of taking away or ripping away, but we're going to, as I said, use the rules and the laws to ensure that there's better compliance.
If you don't mind touching a little on the Baishan issue that has been making the rounds in relation to forestry, how?
Well, Baishan is a very troubling subject, and I did make the point recently. I used the term the Baishan syndrome. I think people have been focused on Baishan. I'm not saying that they shouldn't be, but Baishan could not have done many of the things it has been accused of doing if our compliance arrangements had been observed in Guyana. And so Guyanese would have sat back and allowed much of what we complain of to happen. So on the one hand, there's a company that people seem to like to to dislike. And on the other hand, there must be a number of Guyanese who should be held responsible as well. So we are working to ensure that that phenomenon, if I can call it that, does not repeat itself again. If a company comes into Ghana to work in our forest area, it must respect our laws. And GGMC has, the GFC, Forestry, and GGMC has a role to play to some extent, but the Forestry Commission in particular has been told and knows the government's view that the laws must be applied. They're not to be applied for the local loggers and turned upside down for the foreign loggers. And I think that is where we went into chaos, and chaos led to disrespect, and disrespect led, I think, at some point in time within the sector to disregard for our laws. So by ensuring that there is respect for the laws, I think we are going to bring everyone into order. So we're not against foreign investment or foreign companies in our forest sector. We just want our laws respected.
Despite the global drop in demand for timber, how is the sector doing locally?
Again, the sector is doing well. The Minister of Finance has reported, and based on figures provided by the Forestry Commission, that log exports are down, but that's to be expected. And in fact, we did put a restriction, I wouldn't use the word ban necessarily, but we did put a restriction on exports of some logs last year because I think Guyanese had grown sickened by just seeing logs going out and no value added being attached to them. There was also a shortage of locust logs, for example, on the local market. Furniture manufacturers were unable to access logs because all were being shipped out. So I think I'm not surprised that we didn't earn from exports of logs because we did put some restrictions on that. And in my view, there's nothing wrong because the trees are still standing and we're earning for them. Also, we did have some unusual rainfall last year. There were about 4 months of heavy rainfall, and that affected some of the major companies accessing their concessions. So this year we expect to do far better.
And in terms of building, you mentioned value-added products for the forest sector, for the logs that are coming out of the sector. Any plans by the Forestry Commission to ensure this value-added products?
Well, as I said, the Forestry Commission has been given a strong mandate that the government is looking not for persons to come and take, but the persons to come to add. You can cut our logs, I mean, an allowable cut, we're not cutting everything and everywhere, but we'd like to see more logs processed, we'd like to see furniture, we'd like to see value added so that we get more money from our patrimony.
All right, how soon do you expect to see this starting to happen within that sector?
Well, I don't think that I can say that in this year we'll see any major investment in that area because much of this is driven by trade in Asia, China, Korea, Malaysia, and India. So because there's been a kind of a global recession, we're not seeing heavy investments in that area, but we're using the opportunity now to kind of work out what the terms and conditions will be for anyone new coming in.
You're responsible for our resources and protecting our resources. Coming now to preservation, what is being done? You mentioned in mining, working to ensure sustainable mining, but overall, what are some measures being taken to preserve the environment as well?
Well, I should say that on June 5th we celebrate World Environment Day, and so the EPA is very busy, very involved. We've taken to Parliament last month in May a bill, the Wildlife Management Authority Conservation Bill. So we are going to be placing tremendous emphasis on conservation of our wildlife, the flora, the fauna. We've recently launched a book last week, Sunday, called Undiscovered Guyana, which is really coming out of an idea presented to the World Wildlife Fund by His Excellency the President. Saying to them, enough Guyanese don't know about their country beyond Linden or New Amsterdam or Anna Regina and Georgetown. So we're doing that. We're raising the levels of sensitization among schools. We would have had a good forum with the students today, and hopefully by the end of the year we would have entrenched in all the regions. I can't say in all the schools, but certainly in all the regions, environmental clubs that the ministry and the EPA can work with to raise the level of consciousness about the need to preserve our environment and the fact that we all have a role to play, and that it is going to be economically beneficial to us. It's not just something that sounds nice or feels good. It's actually going to benefit us once we take care of our environment.
What resources are available to, you mentioned the schools and the clubs, to those organizations?
Well, we do have the Ministry of Finance has been good enough to give us a small budget, but we're working with the companies, particularly the large multinational companies that are coming to Ghana, to set aside a portion of money for environmental offsets, we call them, so that they can work with us on projects to, be it Kaitro Falls or the Shell Beach area where turtles come to nest, or training, scholarships. So these are things that we're working on. So independently of government funding, we're looking to access for ways of accessing funds from United Nations and from multinational companies as well.
You talked about the wildlife project. Is there any other legislation aimed towards protecting the environment or resources that you hope to bring?
There's not a legislation other than that. There are some regulations that will come alongside the wildlife bill, but we are about to launch a major study of for the restructuring of the EPA. There's a lot of talk now about the green economy in the South Pacific. It's known as the blue economy because of the waters. For us, it is the forests. How do we work with our forests for our economic good? So the EPA will have to be restructured to meet the new challenges, the new opportunities, and the new vision. And that study is going to be launched this month, June.
Right.
Coming out of that, we anticipate, yes, that there may be some legislative changes that have to be made.
APA is going to be turning 20 on June 5th. What would you like? You said the restructuring of the organization. Do you think they should be doing more in terms of working towards achieving this green economy?
Well, I think it's easy to say they should be doing more, but I think the EPA has done quite a bit with the little that it has, and I'd like to compliment them. 20 years is quite a long time, 2 decades, and I believe that they've done a fairly good job. But now we have to look beyond the ordinary. We're about to become an oil-producing nation. We've got to prepare for the eventuality of an oil spill, be able to react to take care of the coastline and so forth. So there has to be a transformation of the EPA. They understand that. We've got to move to greening of our economy, using renewable energy for everything, getting people to respect our environment more, sound, noise, parties, music, the setting up of sawmills in residential communities or body workshops, or even the use of mercury and mining matters, the burning of gold in residential communities. All of these things are things that the EPA has been working on. It has suffered from a lack of resources, and of course because of the large expanse that Ghana is, it's not always easy for them to go into a region to follow up on a complaint. But I must say, in the year that I've been minister, I found them to be very willing, keen, and able to respond when called on.
Right. You said there's suffering a lack of resources. Any plans to fund them?
Well, hopefully the study that we're about to commission will tell us exactly where we're short.
There is oil exploration. There is mining. There's preserving our environment. Guyana is considered one of the largest freshwater resource, to have one of the largest freshwater resources. How do we balance that? How do we protect our freshwater while sustaining mining, while hoping to eventually have oil?
Well, the first thing is that the two things are not exclusive of each other. Some people think that you can't get fresh water and mining. In many parts of the world, the two are done quite comfortably. It has to do with knowing what you want and putting the regulations and the mechanisms in place. So water is a very scarce resource. It is known that the next wars in the world are going to be fought over water. Ghana is blessed with being the land of many waters. We have a very small population, a lot of green space, and so we have started at the level of cabinet to discuss how we can look at managing this resource, not just allowing it to just run into the rivers, into the sea. Just 2 months ago, we were in extreme dry weather conditions, some even said drought. We had no water. 8 months ago, we had too much. So we're not doing enough now to conserve, and I think the ministries of communities, natural resources, and agriculture are going to be teaming up to look at that. We have observed that Suriname is now conserving, harnessing, and shipping water. Their first shipment of water, I think, left a few days ago for Barbados. So this is something that Ghana is also looking to do in the future.
Your plans for the remainder of your term in office for this ministry?
It's a balancing act because, like, as I said, there's a forest, there's mining, there's the environment, there's wildlife, there's gold and all that. So our focus is being able to see everything that we have as being part of the patrimony, and at the same time allowing it to be harnessed but not exploited to the point where there's nothing left for future generations. So that's what we're doing. We're lifting the level of capacity so that more people are trained. We're going into the schools to sensitize the students about helping us to protect the environment. And also we are preparing for oil production because that is going to transform the nation. So we've got to get geologists and accountants and auditors and persons to drill rigs, wells and so forth, to work on rigs. And so that's our emphasis over the next 3-4 years.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.